I'm sure the general public is decently aware of Grand Theft Auto, a series about critiquing the American dream and poking fun at American culture. The series was a huge success, but what was special about it was the type of impact it had on the creation of other open world games. A lot of games would try to take what was great about the gameplay of GTA and add their own flair to it. What was once dubbed GTA clones and retroactively titled simply open world action games, there was a plethora of fresh ideas to inject into the already polished and expansive open world GTA style. Of these GTA clones, there was a title simply called Just Cause. Just Cause is an open-world, third-person shooter developed by Avalanche Studios that had a focus on blockbuster action, a style very popular of the time and proved to be a step in the right direction in order to get their game noticed. You play as an operative named Rico Rodriguez, being dropped into a Caribbean island nation called San Espirito to link up with your mentor and agency superior Tom Sheldon. Using Sheldon's help, the plan is to overthrow San Espirito's dictator, President Salvador Mendoza. Okay, it's not that complicated of a plot, and embarrassingly for a long time, I didn't even know that was the plot. I don't particularly enjoy Just Cause 1 that much, truth be told. In the end, the game did fine. It was not that technically impressive, or fun, or look that nice, or play that nice, and it was filled with bugs. It got decent reviews, but nothing special or constructive. Retroactively, I believe, it was a great stepping stone for what would come. Regardless of the reception of the game, it certainly wasn't a bad one. The most interesting ideas come from the use of spy gadgets in the game's combat. Unfortunately, at the end of the day, Just Cause 1 is a tad dull, and really, I don't want to keep talking about it, because I'm already kind of sick of it. Thankfully, mediocrity would not last long for the Just Cause series, as a sequel would take all the great ideas, like 2 of them, and morph a whole new style of game and completely refresh the series, that being 2010's release of Just Cause 2. Just Cause 2 was almost a completely different game from Just Cause 1. Just Cause 1 was slow, it was clunky, it was boring, and honestly an absolute slog to have to play through. But in just a few years, Avalanche Studios would change all of that, and for the better. Just Cause 2 was faster, cleaner, it looked better, it sounded better, it played better, it was more intelligently designed, and featured some of the most creative and fun sandbox mechanics for the time. Now, I'm going to keep my thoughts on Just Cause 2 brief, because I believe it is another Burnout Paradise case, where I might do a future video on the game as a follow-up. However, I will be doing the series a major misjustice by not talking about Just Cause 2. Just Cause 2, to put it simply, is absolutely fucking ridiculous. Compared to Just Cause 1, it's faster, it looks better, it plays better, and in general, it is way more fucking cool. One of the biggest additions was the new grappling hook. Just Cause 1 had a grappling hook too, but it was a very specific where and when you could use it. Just Cause 2 on the other hand has a grappling hook as an integrally designed mechanic. In-game you can grapple to anything, the walls, the floors, vehicles, and even people. Holding down the grapple button and then releasing even makes a tether between the 2 points, meaning you can stop a vehicle from moving or attach 2 vehicles together, or just do whatever you think works best in the situation. It's all about creativity. The game wants to see what crazy uses you can get out of using the tether. You could even couple the grappling hook and parachute together to move quickly across the world, which is just a blast. The only real reason I didn't talk about this game over 3 was because I have a bit more of a softer spot for 3 in my heart. Now, that doesn't mean I won't ever talk about it, but I can only talk about so much at one time. You'll have to wait if I ever want to make another video about it. Oh, but don't take that as me not liking the game. Destroying stuff in JC2 is an absolute blast. Hell, the whole dang game is just straight up blast. I still highly recommend everyone out there play it if you think it's interesting. Look, I could sit here and gush about Just Cause 2 all day, and it could easily fill up another Burnout 3 length video, but I want to save as much content as possible for a potential follow-up video, because I don't want to steal the show from the main act. Regardless, what's important to know is that Just Cause 1 was a pretty okay attempt to copy the ideas of GTA, and it did see some success, while Just Cause 2 was an incredible sequel to a game that really did not even prove that it needed one. Also, getting Just Cause 2 gameplay is difficult. The game's PC port is not particularly good, and I don't have any easy way to play the game without it crashing after about half an hour. Also, at some point I must have modded the game because I have infinite grapple length and free black market drops. Two things definitely not in the original game. Now, I did some research, and honestly, I can't find out how many copies of Just Cause 1 were sold, but I do know how well Just Cause 2 sold. From what I've heard on articles, it sold about 6 million copies. Pretty good for a series not particularly known of at the time, although it seems in the eye of Square Enix, who published the game at the time, it was still underperforming, but it still performed well enough to be able to continue. And continue, it very well did.
Trouble starter, pumpkin instigator. I'm the fear addicted, danger illustrated. I'm a fire starter, twisted fire starter.
If Just Cause 2 was a bit of an ironic banger of a game, Just Cause 3 is a true masterpiece. 9 minutes in, and I'm finally talking about the main idea of the video, like I haven't learned a fucking thing. Just Cause 3 is, without a shadow of a doubt, one of the best open world sandbox games I have ever played, and it's one of the best video games I have ever played. It manages to not only build upon what made Just Cause 2 amazing, but went above and beyond what I would have imagined a sequel to even be. Just Cause 3 is breathtaking, fast, frantic, freeform insanity, and it's shocking how much fun I can have with this game. To put it into perspective, I have about 70 hours on Steam and about 50 hours on Xbox for what is a 6 to 8 hour game. Not only do all the mechanics from Just Cause 2 return, but they revamped them to make the whole experience as fun and as fluent as it could possibly be. Things like flying, driving, even just walking and running are so much better. They really put a lot of effort into making Just Cause 3 as easy to play as possible. Just Cause 3 is not just how you make a fantastic sequel, but it's how you make a fantastic video game. But before I blow my whole proverbial load just with my thesis, let's calm down a bit and take it slowly. Why is Just Cause 3 so amazing? Welp, I'm glad you asked. Just Cause 3, like its predecessors, is a spoof of Hollywood action movies. Since the first game, they really didn't take the plot too seriously. Sure, there were some memorable moments in the plots, but in general, it's not a series designed to be seen as a thought-provoking narrative. From the beginning, it's obvious that Avalanche wanted to make a game designed to let you turn off your brain. You don't need to follow the plot in order to enjoy the game, and I think that style fits very well with Just Cause 3. Which is interesting, given that Just Cause 3 is definitely the high point in the series when it comes to plot and narrative, and it mostly stems off of the game's setting. Unlike the other titles, Rico actually has some direct plot relevance in the story. In previous games, Rico would just be the fighting man tasked simply to destroy dictatorships in war-torn countries, but would rarely ever have any reason to do so besides maybe money and that he most likely enjoys it. However, Just Cause 3 marks the first time in the series that Rico actually has a very good reason to save the country he's tasked with saving. The island nation of Medici, which is inspired by the Mediterranean islands, is actually the place where Rico grew up. Immediately, Rico has some excellent character and world building, where we get to see Rico's past through the reminiscing eyes of his best friend, something I didn't really expect to see when playing. It's still not thought-provoking or that deep, but it's just so refreshing to see what was originally a pretty underdeveloped character get some well-needed attention, and it only took 3 games. This choice made the country feel more alive, since Rico's past helps draw a picture of what the place looked like before the takeover. Rico's mannerisms are that of a fucking sexy, wisecracking Chad of a protagonist, who knew that punchlines can make or break a good action movie. In return, this makes playing as him that much more fun, because he reacts to situations more like a cool uncle rather than Shadow the Hedgehog. How do you keep showing up? Get out! Now, for the sake of pacing, I won't continue to talk about this, but just know that for the first time in Just Cause history, the setting, the plot, the characters all actually connect to each other. And it's surprising that they even try to do it at all, considering they could have so easily just done none of that, and no one would have even cared. To summarize it, you played Rico Rodriguez, a government agent whose job is to eradicate countries of power-driven dictators. This third installment in the current trilogy has Rico on a mission to his home, the Isle of Medici, to take out the President Di Ravello and to stop him from digging up the island looking for a rare material called Bavarium. Rico's main mission simply is to liberate the island and stop Di Ravello from completely destroying the place. All in all, not a plot worth gripping your teeth over. The best part of the story are the parts where Rico does something cool. And to be fair, that is the point. The series prides itself on turning the brain off narrative for the sake of consistency. Now, that doesn't make the plot bad at all. It follows a really clean narrative with some really good scenes, but in general, it's just not that thought-provoking. Oh wow, that was a lot. What was I talking about again? Oh right, why Just Cause 3 is such a fantastic sandbox game. My apologies, I had too many unnecessary details for lunch. Iron fiber. Just Cause's general formula is pretty different between games, but the most consistency was between 2 and 3. In Just Cause 1, you're basically just completing missions over and over again, and occasionally taking back a town through a slow and boring shootout pretty much for the entire game. Then there was Just Cause 2, which was completely different. Now, you have to use your resources to destroy settlements in fun and creative ways to win them back for the Resistance. Just Cause 3 continues off from what Just Cause 2 started. In order to unlock more tools, you have to liberate settlements from the dictator's grasp. Of those settlements, you have military bases, towns and cities, drilling rigs, checkpoints, airstrips, and some smaller bases. All of them follow the same format of destroying all the red shit until you win. But what's so ingenious about this approach is the pure freedom you have when attempting it. Now to be fair, Just Cause 2 also let you do most of these things, but Just Cause 2 limited a lot of what you could do to Rico's health, the strength and usability of your tethers, and availability and control of vehicles. In Just Cause 3, you have access to so many things and everything is laid out in a way that makes being able to use all of it an absolute dream. Not to mention that most mechanics from Just Cause 2 have been heavily overhauled for flow and to improve the feel of the game. One being Rico's health, which has been replaced with the red jelly and cooldown. Red jelly meaning the red vignette that appears when you take damage. Red jelly or not, making Rico more of a bullet sponge with the ability to regenerate was genius. Giving him regenerating health was a perfect way to diegetically teach the players about how the wingsuit and parachute works by forcing them to use it to keep themselves alive. Couple this new health system and the assortment of ways to take down each and every base, and you basically have a game where every single scenario is different and the action stays high. But it still features some downtime with wingsuiting, driving, and flying. The wingsuit is more or less a compulsory no-clip mode that you can enable whenever in the air. While its inception might make it seem like a tool for long-distance travel and easy escapes, the wingsuit ends up being far more than what meets the eye. The control of the wingsuit is utterly sublime. Never has piloting a man felt so free and fluent. How far you travel with the wingsuit is based on velocity, however you can extend it by slingshotting from the ground with the grappling hook. In theory, you could wingsuit forever by continuously pulling yourself over and over again. In terms of combat, the wingsuit is pretty poor, however the maneuverability you get is absolutely imperative in the late game to avoid damage and to get the vantage points. Wingsuiting is some of the best and most calming moments in a game where this happens regularly. Wingsuiting is some of the best and most calming moments while playing, which is strange considering this is a game where this happens regularly. Flying in the wide countrysides to the crowded freeways, the narrow mountains and crystal clear waters, you can find some of the most beautiful scenes while wingsuiting, and it is a great pace breaker from this this, and this. The wingsuit is all good and fun, but where it really shines is when you combine wingsuiting with the parachute. No matter when, if you're wingsuiting, you can open your parachute, and the same vice versa. Doing this is useful for retreating or positioning, as the wingsuit is great for maneuverability, and the parachute is great for offensive attacks, since you can fire any and all weapons from the parachute. On top of that, the parachute is great simply as an air brake for when you inevitably are about to run straight into a mountain. When deploying the parachute from the wingsuit, you'll always gain a boost in forward momentum, which means if you pull back, you can get a ton of height. Couple this with the ability to redeploy the parachute after deploying the chute, you can get a ton of height out of nowhere, which is great for ascending cliffs or taller buildings. You can open the wingsuit when grappling, falling, diving from a parachute, and from your mother. You can engage the parachute while grappling, falling, diving from a car, from a bike, from a boat, from a plane, from the wingsuit, and from your father. The developers really wanted the player to get creative with how to use the wingsuit, obviously, considering the multitude of uses it has and even more uses when used with the parachute. They even limited Rico's ground speed to obviously allow for better precision on the ground, but to also encourage using the game's vast array of vehicles and movement options for the most effective combat. Just Cause 3 isn't a game about getting your hands dirty with direct ground combat. It's about style, grace, and fucking trees! It's laid out right from the beginning to be a game about aerial positioning and combat. Rico is not as strong as you might think. He can certainly take a beating, but he is not a bullet sponge. Rico on foot is slow, but reacts accurately to movement directions. From a standstill, you can take off into the wingsuit or parachute by just using the grapple. So no, having a run button would be fucking stupid, because on top of being a game about fast reactive movement, you have way better options at your disposal. So fuck off! I didn't mean to get so heated. I'm sorry. You can have your own opinions. That was really fun though. I like getting mad. That's funny. But what is good movement and control if there isn't a thing to do? Which, thankfully, is not the case for Just Cause 3. Straight from the beginning, the entire world is open to you. However, the game does mainly funnel you to the smaller islands first in order to get used to the mechanics. Right off of the bat, you have a massive world that you can reasonably explore without even touching the main story. Everything from open plains, deep forests, and bustling cities to fucking volcanoes. The game's locations are also varied enough that no two places feel the same. For example, in the late game, you'll most likely find yourself in the upper areas of the map near the mountains on the main island. Cold and barren, but amazingly detailed, and just a kilometer or two away, you can be in the middle of a massive field of wheat looking at the sunset over the horizon. However, unfortunately, these locations can't even compare to the map design of Just Cause 2. I'll keep it brief, but on the island of Panau, you explore deep and thick jungles on one side of the map, and then a couple kilometers over, you have a barren and vast fucking desert. I can't even imagine how they even got there. Then you have monolithic skyscrapers not too far away in a massive city right on the coast of the whole fucking nation. And it doesn't even stop there. Just like Just Cause 3, there are massive air bases, cold and barren mountaintops, and massive fields that all look absolutely stunning. Just Cause 2 is definitely more varied, but Just Cause 3 is way more grounded, and it honestly helps make the world more fun to explore. In Just Cause 2, exploring the deep jungles was like having an inner ear infection while in the outer reaches of space. The desert was so big but lacked a lot of detail, which honestly made it a massive chore to have to walk through. The massive city that looked visually amazing had building that was so difficult to scale and streets so barren of life or things to do that it ended up feeling unfinished. You see, this is where Just Cause 3 map design is so genius. The wide open locations and massive cliff faces made exploring the map fun as shit. You have so much room to explore without risk of constantly running into stuff, but still manage to make wingsuiting precarious because of how steep inclines and mountains can be all over around the map. On top of that, the map in general, from above at least, looks very consistent, meaning you don't have to worry about running into massive boring deserts or jungles deeper than the post-apocalyptic Mojave. Also, because of this consistent map design, chaos objects are much easier to notice and don't require a space telescope to find. Let's touch up a little more on the main meat of the game and all the things you can do in it. First off, all the settlements and bases scattered around the map. In Just Cause 3, there are bases filled with chaos objects that you need to destroy to liberate them, littered about the place in key areas to encourage creative problem solving. For example, Puerto Darcena. I probably butchered that name. I'm sorry, is primarily underground in a cove on the leftmost island in the trio Providence. Puerto de Sena's location means getting aerial vehicles inside is a bit of a nightmare considering there are still SAMs set up like it's an anti-aircraft convention. This means if you want to attempt an aerial insertion, it'll take a bit of creativity or luck. Alternatively, you could bring in an armored boat from the cove's entrance, but you'll need to bring a pretty well armored boat to survive, and even then, there still wouldn't be a way to destroy every single chaos object straight from the water. You could probably go in guns blazing from the main entrance, but because of the claustrophobic nature of the base, an escape from the parachute or wingsuit would prove to be very difficult. The game constantly throws these type of curveballs to make taking out certain secured bases not always so easy. There are plenty of examples of this exact thing throughout the whole map, and it makes each and every base memorable in some way. What's also really excellent about each base is that they all have sub-styles that make each and every one different. On one hand, you have some pretty simple bases that are filled to the brim with stuff to destroy, but some are wide and expansive naval ports, towering monolithic radio communication towers, busy and bustling airships, and more SAM sites. You think these guys have a problem with planes? Each and every location requires different approaches to tackling them in a strategic manner, but still encouraged to do whatever the fuck looks cool. Another great example are the CENTCOM towers on each island, more specifically Falco Maxime. Normally you're supposed to complete the mission where you destroy the main power to the facility so the big fuck off nuke doesn't destroy your entire forehead just by taking a couple of steps. However, you aren't completely locked out of actually capturing the base. The game just places a roadblock to stop you. So yeah, you don't actually need to stop the nuclear launcher to capture the base, and that's part of the game that I really enjoy. I don't think a lot of other people notice it, but it's something I certainly do. Taking out Maxime with the nukes online is just the most challenging and frustrating task in the whole game, and I absolutely adore it. Of course, you don't need to do it this way, it's just for cool points. You don't even get an achievement or anything for it, it was completely unintentional, but goddamn is it a fucking blast. The nukes don't actually even beeline towards you, so you can use the natural arc to throw it into chaos objects, which means you don't even need to lift a finger in order to capture the place in theory. Due to the power of the nukes, you can't go in with any vehicle because it will just explode immediately, so you need a wingsuit around to not outrun, but to avoid the nuke's path. It is certainly tense, but holy shit, it is exactly why I love this game. Because it doesn't ever limit you. You can take out every single base in the game right after the tutorial and you are never stopped, only maybe minorly inconvenienced. Early game, you don't even have access to planes, which means you have to get the other island, you'll need to take a helicopter, boat, or a swim. There is not a single base locked out to you ever in the game. Even the DLC bases are open to explore even outside their associated missions. Avalanche knew that all players wanted to do was blow shit up, so they let you do exactly that. No matter what, the main point of Just Cause 3 is to do shit that looks like an action movie. I'll do things by complete accident and then look back at the footage later and be so impressed by what I did, I think I've stolen it from someone else. There is no limit to the kind of incredible things you can do, and most of it comes out of absolutely nowhere. You can plan your approach as much as you want, but easily the best part about taking out bases is when shit just doesn't go right, and you have to improvise with a completely new idea. Most things inside the base have alternate uses. Gas tanks on the ground usually just explode and that's that. But if you simply shoot them once, then they'll shoot off into the sky and explode after a while. I talked about the wingsuit, parachute, and grapple enough, but what about the game's parlor trick, the tethers? The new big thing in Just Cause 3 is the upgrade tether from Just Cause 2. Instead of being a simple connection between 2 points, it now completely changes how you can approach any and all situations. If I were to compare it to any other tool in a video game, it would most likely be the gravity gun in Half-Life 2. The gravity gun allowed you to pick up and punt objects as projectiles. Using the gravity gun meant you could kill swarms of enemies without wasting any bullets by throwing chairs, fridges, doors, barrels, crates, or whatever you can find. The Just Cause 3 tethers are built in a similar way. Instead of needing to use bullets to destroy objects, you could use tethers to pull and throw almost anything thanks to the new ability to retract, as well as the ability to make multiple tethers at once. Immediately, the floodgates are open for creativity, or to just do whatever stupid shit looks fun. Looks fun. Just Cause 3 is a really important game to me. Not just because it's a great game that delivered on my dream of a fully realized sandbox experience that dynamically allows you to tackle scenarios as you please, but it still, to this day, contains one of the remaining factors for why I love video games. Variety. Any game can take an idea and run with it, or add tons of content to keep the players coming back. But it's games like Just Cause 3 that make me want to replay the game, not because I feel I have to experience all the content, but just because it's so fun. I've beaten Just Cause 3 multiple times now, and every time it felt like a completely fresh experience. It's tough to find games like that, especially when the market is so dependent on free updates, microtransactions, online and competitive gaming. It's nice to know, even going forward, that there will still be games made that can suck me back in time. Take me back to a place where the game I got was all I got, and they only had one shot to make their mark. And Avalanche did just that. Just Cause 3 feels like a game from a bygone era, where I could just sit in front of an old TV in the basement, bowl of candy in my hand, and just watch the time fly by like it wasn't even there. Modern games aren't always like that. As open as some games claim to be, rarely are games able to suck me in anymore. And for a while, I thought I was losing interest in the things that I love, only to realize that I'm experiencing a farce of what I know I love. We are far beyond a time of wonder and creativity where you can walk into a game store and see crazy weird ideas taken and run with. But in a way, games like Just Cause 3 show us that those games can still exist. Games that seem so off the walls and scream at you from the box art alone. Games that you take home and you just lose track of everything for the best weekend of your life. In my personal conclusion, not only is Just Cause 3 one of the most fun and downright enjoyable games I've played in a long time, but one of the best examples of simplicity over complication. Just Cause 3 is a very easy to grasp game that makes sure the player has full control of what happens. Simply traversing the world is breathtaking, and experiencing it is something truly incredible. I don't think it's out there to place Just Cause 3 as one of my favorite games I've ever played, as well as a game I think should be seen as proof that the video game industry isn't doomed, but instead filled with potential to create something amazing, even when it seems like a soulless pit of hell. And if I can't convince you here with this game, perhaps I can convince you in another way.